somebody is going to have the balls inside of the Democrat Party to actually call out the crazy wing of the Democrat Party. I was a little bit surprised this didn't get more attention. There has been a lot of discussion about what comes after Trump. What is the Republican Party going to do? Who is going to be the next to pick up the Trump mantle and run with it? And so far, Trump has kind of avoided discussing that very much. In fact, he's tended to say, hey, that basically he would like to continue to be able to run. He's flirted with the concept of running in 2028. He's talked about it openly, notwithstanding the fact that there are term limits obviously in play for him. And yesterday, he was asked, I believe by Peter Doocy, a question about J.D. Vance. And I think it is probably the most intense or most furthest along the road of a potential endorsement that we have seen. I want to play it for you. I want to get your reaction, Buck, and also many of yours out there. I know it's early, but already the discussion of what is going to happen after Trump is happening. Sorry, this is Peter Doocy asking that question yesterday. Cut two.
Thank you very much, President Trump. Nice to see you got off the roof all right.
Yeah.
You said this morning that you probably won't be running for a third term. This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
What do you think, Buck? I mean, I know it's early, but the idea of a J.D. Vance for president, Marco Rubio for vice president ticket right out of the gate, I think would forestall a lot of people running against J.D. and everyone else. Again, I know it's a ways into the future, but this is the most expansive that Trump has been on the subject so far. What do you think?
Well, it's very Trump. He says it's too early to talk about, but JD's fantastic and would be a great one and probably is the one, but we can't know who the one is, but probably maybe we'll talk about it some other time, including today. I think that the vice president is always considered to be, unless it's Joe Biden after 8 years, but the vice president is considered the...
good point.
Isn't it amazing? Who would have taken the odds on Biden will end up as president and Hillary will not for the Democrats? Starting in 2015, when it was clear that Hillary was it actually wasn't that clear. It was Bernie and Hillary. Anyway, you get what I'm saying.
That it would play out the way it did would have been a 10,000 to 1 bet, because I think most people would have just done basic math. You could have said, hey, Hillary might have a health condition. She might have to drop out. But if you had asked in like October of 16, when Hillary was a prohibitive favorite, what are the odds that Biden would ever end up president of the United States? You could have gotten him at an unbelievable rate.
It also, though, just goes to, and this isn't, oh, rah, our team, the other team stinks, although that's true, too. We have a deep bench. They don't. And they'll pretend like that's not the case. But we all know that that's what's going on here. Would J.D. Vance, if Trump blesses a J.D. Vance campaign, when the time comes, remember, it's not 8 years out, it's a few years out now. That's the thing. It is very different. It's not like Trump has 2 terms to go. He's got this term and that's it.
It's a year and a half, Buck, which sounds crazy, but people will start officially announcing in like January and February of 27.
Yeah, it's not that far out, but J.D. Vance, I think, would be a great standard bearer for the Republican Party. I think Marco Rubio would be a great standard bearer. I think there are about 4 or 5 other people you could throw into the mix there who, whether you love them or they're your top choice or your third choice or whatever, they're serious candidates who could win votes. Ron DeSantis, serious candidates who could win a lot of votes and do very well in a national election. And we still sit here and laugh about how the Democrats, Gavin Newsom, I think Kamala's finished. You think maybe she makes one more run at it. Bernie Sanders is too old. The too old thing is real now. I think everyone recognizes.
I do think you're right.
Yeah, in the post-Biden era, you can't just pretend somebody who can't walk without assistance, basically, is going to be the president anymore. And anyone who says, oh, well, Trump's too old, as we know, it's about the indicators you see of how someone speaks and how they move, even more so than just their age. Trump is running around making fun of how people can't hit 300 yards or whatever off the tees like he can. Like, Trump's doing great. So yeah, I think that JD and Rubio would be the first. That would be the first team that most people would think of. But it is very early, Clay, and there's a lot of baseball left to play.
I do think that, to your point on the Democrat side, there is kind of a quiet panic setting in. I think that's why they're reacting to the redistricting as they are. And again, it needs to be talked about more. The way that COVID has realigned all of the different states, you're an example of this, leaving New York, going to Miami. The amount of power that is going to reside in red states for generations to come, Democrats can't win. I got a call yesterday. I don't know how it's going to end up turning out. So just be aware. I talked to a reporter from the New York Times. He called. Said he's been listening to some of our show, and he wanted to talk about Sydney Sweeney and the impact there. And one of the questions he asked was, "Well,
wait, New York Times called you about this?"
Yeah. I think they're doing a story about Sydney Sweeney and the reaction to it.
You are a noted right-wing Sydney Sweeney / First Amendment and boobs expert, Clay Travis.
This is my wheelhouse. So I'm not saying that I am the focal point of the story. I think Sydney Sweeney is the focal point of the story. But this show now has grown to the point where I think people are like, oh, wow, Clay and Buck actually talked to a lot of people, and Outkick has obviously been outspoken on this and all those things. But he asked me a question. I thought it was an interesting question because I hadn't thought about it. He said, okay, so you're pointing out all the left-wing Nazism accusations against Sydney Sweeney. He said, who are the Democrat politicians that have actually taken an aggressive stance on this? He said, President Trump has talked about it. J.D. Vance has talked about it. A lot of people have. And I said, it's an interesting way of asking it because I said, whenever a Republican says something ridiculous or someone who is connected to the Republican Party, the media shows up and demands that everybody answer for it. This is how you can tell how the rig job goes on. I said, yeah, you may be right that there haven't been a lot of Democrat elected officials reacting to the Sydney Sweeney ad. But let me point this out. None of them have come out and said, hey, it's crazy to call Sydney Sweeney a Nazi. And what I was analogizing there is at some point, Gavin Newsom has tiptoed up to it, but somebody is going to have the balls inside of the Democrat Party to actually call out the crazy wing of the Democrat Party. Home robberies, home invasions, what do you have to protect yourself, especially if you want to protect yourself from non-lethal elements right now? We're getting back to school season. My fifth grader went back to school on Monday. You may have kids going back to high school, going back to college. Maybe you got grandkids going to both those places. Get hooked up right now by going to Sabre and check out all the non-lethal ways that you can help protect yourself and your family. That's Sabre, spelled S-A-B-R-E. The website, sabreradio.com. Family-owned business. Been around for 50 years. They manufacture pepper sprays, pepper gels, projectile devices, all proudly made in the good old USA. We have them all in our home. Buck has them in his. We have every product that Sabre offers. I promise you're going to love it. Right now, you can save 15% if you go check them out on their website, sabreradio.com. That's S-A-B-R-E radio.com. You can also call, if you'd rather talk to somebody on the phone, 844-824-SAFE. That's 844-824-SAFE, sabreradio.com.